Hi everyone, this is HM&S video number 63 and you are most welcome for it. Today we want to talk about how to create an official Excel table. Now, this is not a table. Many of us call this a table, but this is actually not a table. This is called a range or a list. An Excel table has more data analysis options to it than this one. Now, last video we talked about how to create a proper data set, and I ended that video by saying there's still one more thing that we need to do to make our data set a good proper data set, and that one is to convert it into an Excel table. Let's switch on to Excel and we dive deeper into how to create an official Excel table. Now, to create an Excel table, you first need a proper data set. We talked about how to create a proper data set on our last video. If you don't know how to create a proper data set, you can go and watch that video. We have this proper data set. To create an Excel table, you need to first select one cell within your data set. I'm going to click on one cell within my data set, and then you go to the Insert tab, click, and then from the table group, we have table here. Now when I click on table, you can see it brings for me this create table dialog box. Because we selected one cell within our data set before we went to the table, it got the range of our data set correctly. Now we have this option here, my table as headers. It will always come when it's checked, but in case your table is not having headers, you can uncheck it, but in most cases you will always use a proper data set, and a proper data set is always having headers, so you will always leave this option checked. But let's see what will happen if we unchecked it. So I'm going to uncheck it, and when I click OK, you can see it has created for us a table, but it's not considering this row as our column headers. That's why we have new column headers here. Column 1, column 2, column 3, just like that. So if your data set is having column headers, make sure you always check that option, my table as headers. So I'm going to Control Z to undo that. Now there are 3 keyboard shortcuts to create an Excel table. The first one is Alt-N-T, and you can see it's bringing for us the same option. All I need to do, I need to click OK, and you can see it has created for us our table. I'm going to Control Z to undo that. Another keyboard shortcut to create an Excel table is Control L. It brings for us the same option. When I hit enter, you can see it has created for us a table. I'm going to Control Z again. The last keyboard shortcut, which is the most common keyboard shortcut, is Control T, and you can see it brings for us the same option. Make sure my table as headers is selected, and then I'm going to click OK. Now this is actually an Excel table. Now when you create an Excel table like this, it creates for you what's called a contextual tab, and that one is the table design tab. It's called a contextual tab because when you click outside the table, click, it disappears, but when you click within the table, click, it comes back. Now immediately you create a table, you need to come to the table design tab, and then from the property group, we have the table name. Make sure you always rename your table and give it a good name. So I'm going to click on the table name, highlight, and then I'm going to rename this table, interview, and then enter. This table is now called interview. Now all these options on the tools group and then external table group, we shall talk about them in future videos, but one important one is this, convert to range. If you want to convert this table back to range, you can click on that option. But let's come to the table style options group. Now from here, we can do a lot of things. For example, we have header row here. If we don't want the header row, we can come and uncheck it. You can see our headers are gone, but I'm going to check it so that we have our headers back. We also have what is called banded rows. You can see the rows within our table is having some color coding. You can see some sort of light blue, white, light blue, white. That one is called banding rows. In case you don't want those banded rows, you can come here and then you uncheck banded rows. You can see our table is now clear, but I'm going to leave the banded rows on, so I'm going to check. You can also do banded columns. You come to banded columns here, and when you check, you can see our columns are now banded. If I uncheck banded rows, we can see clearly that our columns are now banded, but I'm going to leave banded rows on, and then I'm going to uncheck banded columns. Check. Now, another important option is this total row. Let's click and we see what will happen. I'm going to click. You can see it adds for us a total row at the bottom of our table. and this total row is actually calculating for us the total of the salary. Now this total row is actually using a subtotal function. When I click on it, you can see we have this option here. When I click on that option, it's giving me all these aggregate functions here. By default, it used the sum function and it gave me the sum of salary expectation. But if I want to change it to any of these aggregate function like average, I can just come to average function, and when I click on it, you can see I'm now having the average salary expectation. Now this subtotal function is found in all these cells on this row. When I click on this one, I also have this option. When I click, you can see I can get average age. This is the average age. Here I also have this option. You can see all these cells here are having those options. Now I'm going to come back here and then remove the total row. So I'm going to uncheck, click, and you can see the total row is gone. Now as you can also see on our field names or column headers, we have these filter buttons. You can use them to filter your data. For example, if I want to filter only the gender male, I can come to the gender column, click on the filter button, uncheck, then select only male, and then click OK. And you can see we have filtered only male. So I'm going to Control Z to unfilter that. If you want to turn off the filter buttons, you can come to the filter button option here and then uncheck it. So I'm going to uncheck it, and you can see the filter buttons are gone. But I'm going to check it so that we have the filter buttons. Also from the table design tab, we have the table styles group. This is where you can change the style of your table. So let's click here. We have all these options here. I want you to see what will happen to our table as I hover over these options. So you can see we have these options, we have this, we have this, we have this, we have this. Now if you get the one you want, like for example, let's try this one, you simply need to click and it will be applied. So that one is actually the table styles. Now let's see what happens when we try to do some calculations using data which is within a table. So I'm going to get the average age. I'm going to click on this cell, click, and then do equals to average. We shall use the average function, tab to select it. There are two ways I can highlight my data. I can simply come to the age column and then I highlight it like this, as you can see. But I'm going to backspace. Since this is actually a table, I can just come on top of the column I want to highlight, like this one here. When I see this black pointed arrow, I can simply click, and you can see it automatically highlights for me the entire column. Now this is what I want to bring our attention to. On HM&S video number 9, we talked about relative cell reference and absolute cell reference. And then in HM&S video number 10, we talked about a mixed cell reference. Now this one we are seeing here is called the table formula nomenclature, or it's also called a structured reference. So in Excel table, we use a structured reference, and this is how the structured reference works. If you highlight the entire column like this, it puts for you the name of the table. For our case, our table is called interview, and then in square bracket, it puts for you the column header. We have highlighted the column age in bracket year. That's why we have this. So when I hit enter, it's working very well. This is actually the correct average. Now the importance of using a structured reference is that when a new data is added onto the table, the structured reference automatically expand and capture the new data. Let's see that. Now to add the new data onto an Excel table, you need to click on the last row, click, and then hit tab. It will create for you a row like you have seen. So you can simply type U12 tab, Abocaro tab, female tab, 28 tab, and then 300. And when I hit enter, you can automatically see that our average has actually captured the new data. Actually, when I double click, you can see the range has expanded and it's now capturing even the new data. Escape. In fact, if I highlight this entire data like this, Control C to copy it, and then I'm going to come at the end, click, and then when I Control V, it will automatically be part of the table. And when I double click this, you can see the range has automatically expanded and it's now capturing all the new data. So that one is actually the importance of using structured reference. It's very dynamic. It expands when the new data is added onto the table. Escape. Yeah, that is it for this particular video. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. And if you found this video interesting, give it a like, and then you share it with your friends. This is a video where we talked about how to create a proper data set. You can click on it, then you go and watch it. Until next video, HM&S video number 64, then we meet again. Thank you.